Welcome back to the X-Men videos that we're doing. The Fox Marvel videos that we're doing.
Yes.
Today we're talking about X2.
Woo!
Yeah, it already came out. Wow. If you don't know how this works, we are going through all of the Fox X-Men movies because Deadpool 3 is coming. Well, Deadpool and Wolverine is coming out in July. So we're going to go through each week talking about a different Fox Marvel movie. So that includes X-Men, Daredevil, and Fantastic Four, and Elektra, but she's more part of Daredevil. But yeah, it's going to be a very fun journey. So let's just go right into what we think of the movie. What do you think, Hunter?
So the thing is that I've thought about this the last couple days as we've been preparing for this. I would argue that I don't think that X2 is a step forward, but I don't think that it's a step backwards. I think that it's a step to the side. It improves on other aspects, but I don't think that the story is quite as strong as X1. Well, I mean, we'll get into this a bit later because once again, this is the non-spoiler part of the review. I love this movie. I love it just as much as I love X1. It's solid, and it's once again sort of like continuing the foundation of what X1 built. But I don't think that it's a massive leap forward that some people say it is. I disagree with that point.
Okay, I want to talk about a main complaint I kind of have with X-Men movies in general, which is not even a big deal. It's just, again, kind of a nitpick. Why does every subplot have to come together and be like they have to like for instance Nightcrawler? I mean, he comes in at the very beginning of the movie, and then he's kind of just there all the way up until the end of the movie, which is fine. But like the thing is, he's not like really part of the team or anything, you know? Kind of like how I can't talk about this yet because this is the third movie. I don't know. Just I think the way Bryan Singer wrote this one and Apocalypse is very similar, and it makes sense since they kind of have the same kind of subplots in them. I think that it's the best in the trilogy of the original trilogy. Maybe I like the first one more. I don't really know what I can tell you. I just think that this one it focuses a lot on Wolverine's past, and that's kind of one of my favorite parts about the X-Men movies and Wolverine in general is his past. And I love the opening scene. What do you think of the opening scene?
Oh, dude, the opening scene still is probably one of the best things that we've gotten out of the X-Men universe, honestly.
Yeah, it's with Nightcrawler in the White House.
Oh, dude, it's so good. Now, I really wanted to mention one of my main complaints really quick because you touched on it. You love the past of Wolverine. I do too. But I swear to God, we could not decide how we wanted to handle, how we were going to tell Wolverine's origin story. Okay? To me, it's a bit of an issue. Like, it really became apparent in the next couple of movies that we really didn't know how we wanted to do it. And we started it in this movie. I don't know. It's a small issue for me. Maybe it's just the fact that I'm tired of origin stories at this point. I mean, you know, at this point, we didn't really have origin stories in I mean, we did, but like X1 obviously didn't really have an origin story. And then it was also like we had Spider-Man and Avengers didn't exist yet, right? So origin stories didn't really exist yet. But at this point, I swear to God, it feels like every other superhero movie I watch is an origin story. But anyways, I don't want to discuss on that too long. But that's probably just me talking from our 2024 perspective, where when we finally got a new Batman movie and they were like, oh yeah, by the way, it's a year 2 Batman, we all clapped and cheered. What would you give this rating of this movie, Noah?
10 out of 10. I grew up with it. But that's going to be most of these ratings, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's true. I'll agree with most of the X-Men ratings. The only one I'm going to disagree with some of the Fox polls once we get to like the Fantastic Four films. And, Daredevil. I haven't seen Elektra. That's going to be a new one for me. At this point, we're going to start talking about spoilers. So if you don't want to get spoiled, we're going to start the spoiler talk in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Get out of here. Anyways, they're gone. I feel like Freddy from iCarly whenever I do that. Anyway.
Yeah, I've been watching that show too.
So let's talk about X2, baby. First of all, I think it's still solid, like I mentioned. I will say it's not a complaint, because that's really what these movies are, is that the plot kind of feels like we just did X1 over again a little bit, in the sense that, oh, look at that, once again the government wants to outlaw mutants. Who would have saw that coming? That's at least how I feel about it. I do think, though, that overall... Oh, sorry, you go.
Okay. A little counterpoint there. Mm-hmm. That's kind of how it is all the time in X-Men. You're never really going to get away from that.
Well, that's what I mean. That's why I said that's what these movies are, right? And I mean, yeah. It's not a complaint. It's just, I mean, if you're not a fan of X-Men and X1 didn't hook you, this one's probably not going to do it either. I'm going to be real with you. And I mean, we're even going to talk about that when we get to Logan. Logan still has that theme. I will say, though, that I really enjoyed the villains a little bit more than I enjoyed the first time around.
Yeah. Let's talk about that. Stryker.
Yes, sir.
I don't know. He freaks me out, man.
Yes.
Because he's got all those things he can use on the mutants to make them do what he wants. Yeah. And it's creepy, because it's like you got that one scene towards the end, not towards the end, actually it's more like in the middle, where Lady Deathstrike, where she kind of wakes up and it's like, where am I, and then he's like, oh shit, okay, let me redose up. He
is absolutely a freaky villain. I will completely agree with you. And overall, I think that's a good thing. I mean, maybe you just have a little bit of growing up with this movie, but for me, it's like, I think that's a good step in the direction, especially, I mean, showing that, like, especially with how Spider-Man 1 was. I mean, Spider-Man 1 is very much, for all intents and purposes, kind of a kid's movie. And I feel like X2 was kind of out there to be like, hey, yeah, we made Blade. I will agree with you that it is very freaky, especially in the case of Professor X, because like you mentioned, he's supposed to be like the guy, like that is pretty crazy to be able to affect Professor X in that way.
But I thought that was a cool sequence with again Wolverine taking out the guys coming in.
Yeah.
Picked the wrong house, bub.
Honestly, that might be one of my favorite scenes in the movie. I love that scene. Picked the wrong house, bub. And it just looks cool. Let's be real here. It's cool. And, that kind of leads me to sort of, we talked about it a little bit, is that this movie, and moving forward, didn't really know how we wanted to tell X-Men, well, not X-Men, but Wolverine's origin story. And we get part 1 here, and here's the thing. In this movie, I really like it. I'm going to talk a little bit differently throughout these films when we get to different films, where I'm going to say that I'm a little sick of it. But at this point, I like it. I like it in X2.
I'm in the scene right now where Professor X actually is talking to Wolverine about his past, and is like, why, like, you don't know why you have the adamantium skeleton, or like why your claws are like that, Yeah. And it's kind of cool because later on he goes to the facility and he sees all the marks that he left in the walls when he escaped, which I thought was so cool, because I rewatched this the other day and I was like, oh my god, I forgot about that.
I'm gonna agree with you. It is super cool, and it's honestly like in the top % of these film scenes. I think that it's really cool, and once again, it once again adds to what I was just talking about, is that I really like the setup for setting up Wolverine's origin story, his past, everything about that is set up really well in this movie. And that scene is super cool, because I mean...
that this is what a sequel should be. Mm-hmm. And I think you kind of disagree with me on that.
Okay.
Because you said it's kind of just more of the same thing.
So,
just with like better effects and stuff.
Well, here's the thing. It's the same because I just feel like it's slightly weaker in its storytelling, and it kind of feels samey. And while that's good in a sequel, I mean, at this point, you can tell me if I'm wrong, they wanted to make a big cinematic universe, right? Like, that's what they wanted to do at this point, right?
No.
Okay. Then I guess my point is a little invalid here then, because it doesn't feel like we move the plot that far along. Like, yes, we move it forward, but it feels like a half jump. It doesn't feel like a full jump to me.
They were just trying to fill out the X-Men timeline, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
a little bit more, with showing obviously the origin of Wolverine. Really,
That is the movie. We already shared our thoughts and what we think about. Really, kind of the plot of X2 is, besides Wolverine's plot, is kind of the same. Once again, that's not a bad thing.
can we talk about the new characters?
Yeah, absolutely.
In X2, what'd you think of Pyro?
I like Pyro. I think Pyro is a good addition to the team, and overall is just interesting. I just enjoy adding more characters to the series in general, because there's so many interesting characters to pull from, and I'm sure that you know way more than I do about these characters. But to me, these characters are just, especially in this movie, I feel like are full of energy, and I mean that in a positive way. Like, things feel more energetic in this movie, and especially with new characters that are introduced. They're not afraid to jump in the action. They're not afraid to be front and center. They're not just some weird side character that is, butchered. Maybe it may just realized I was kind of talking about Deadpool there. Anyway.
Yeah, and we get to see his bit of rivalry with Bobby, or Iceman.
Yes.
Which is more like Ice Boy because he's not a man yet.
Yes.
But anyway, he appeared in the first movie, Iceman, just for like a little role in the movie.
Yeah.
But in this one, he takes kind of more center stage, as he's more with Wolverine. Pyro, Iceman, and Rogue and Wolverine kind of stick together through the whole movie.
Yeah.
And Iceman, we get to see Iceman. Bobby, his whole thing was he told his parents that it was a prep school.
Yes.
Instead of a school for mutants. They don't know that he's a mutant, which it's very reminiscent of like how the talk goes with, like, if we have any homosexual viewers, I'm sure if you've told your parents about it before, it can look a lot like him telling his parents that he's a mutant. The whole, like, have you ever tried not being a mutant? Do I try not being a mutant?
Yeah. And we talked about this last week, that we really enjoyed the diversity points that are covered in these first couple movies. Just like what we talked about in the first movie about diversity and inclusion.
Yeah, because that's what X-Men's all about. It's all about it's about being a metaphor for minorities.
Yes.
And how they are treated by society.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those minorities, but I'm a fan of the message.
Yes.
Because I don't like saying this because it comes off very cringy to me, but I'm an ally, so to speak. I like seeing this because it's a very good message to have, and I like seeing that in the movie, and I like seeing I like that whole scene where he's like, "This is Professor Logan."
And I will say, just to like mention your point about the whole thing about the rivalry, I really think that really comes into play too, with the fact that once again they're rivals and they're sort of opposite. They're opposites, just like how they're portrayed to be opposite minorities. And we're gonna see it more, but like them coming together is just, it's really good and it's really refreshing.
His whole thing is, let's show them that we're different, yes, but we're not. We're like the same as well. Like we're people.
Absolutely. And it's also coming to
Magneto's
terms.
more like. Sorry, what'd you say?
And it's also coming to terms that to understand that and to get that done, you also need to be able to work with other people that feel the same way as you, that may come from different backgrounds as you. And I really feel like that's what that's really what I'm gonna call him Ice Boy. What Ice Boy really shows.
We got Lady Deathstrike.
Yes.
We haven't really talked about yet.
What do you think about Lady Deathstrike?
I think that she's a great addition, and she's kind of like if Wolverine never made it out of the facility.
You know what? I think that's pretty solid.
It's cool to have that,
Yeah.
Another thing, he just popped up on the screen right now in that one scene with the house. I'm watching the movie.
Yeah.
Colossus. He kind of takes a back seat in the movies.
Yeah, he really does.
And plus, he's not Russian in the movies, which I wish he was. Going back to Lady Deathstrike, the whole scene where you first see her, where she's cracking her fingers. That's funny, isn't it?
It is funny. Again,
dude, we didn't even talk about. Oh my god, we didn't even talk about Jean at the end.
Oh, you start. You go for it.
Like, she sacrifices herself for everybody.
Yes. Yep. Very, very noble, I would say.
And very sad too. Like she says goodbye through Professor X, which is very sad. Very
sad indeed.
I saw somebody talking about it on Twitter. Oh my god! Again,
Twitter.
Saw somebody talking about it on Twitter, where it's like, oh my god, we should have been there. And I mean, this goes into what you were talking about. Back in 2003, when we first saw this, like, who else thought that this was?
I'd be stomping my way down to Fox headquarters prior to when Disney bought them out, and when 20th Century Fox still was a part of Fox News, and we bang on the doors, and we don't say hi to Bill O'Reilly, but we go straight into the executive's office and beg for an early copy of X3.
And then they'll say, well, we haven't filmed it yet.
Sir, the movie came out yesterday.
Dude, did you know? But I mean, we should kind of mention this in the third, when we talk about the third one. But did you know that Zack Snyder was considered to direct the third movie?
That's well, okay. Back up. What did he even direct at that point?
I think he did. Or wait, was it? No, I think he did 300 by then.
What year did X3 come out?
2006.
No shot that 300 was out by then. But yeah, X2, solid film. Once again, if you liked X1, I really do think that you're going to like X2. And I genuinely do mean that. I think that I'm all set with my thoughts and feelings. Once again, thank you all so much for watching. We appreciate it. It means a lot to us that you guys have been spending time with us to just chill. But as you guys all know, Halo Season 2 is done. And what's going to be replacing that? Let's just say that me and Noah are going to be touching some grass, but not the grass that you probably want us to touch. Some virtual grass in block form. Maybe you'll see where we're going with that. But once again, tune in next week for Daredevil, which is next week. So if you like to hear me complain, come back next week, because trust me, I'll be complaining. And also, tune in next week for our brand new podcast series that is going to be starting next week. We're very excited for it, and we hope that you enjoy it. Without further ado, though, guys, have a wonderful rest of your night, and peace.
This migraine that I feel, your feelings are not real. So I'm drunk on the sidewalk.